What's going on, music heads? It's your man Louie T here with another brand new installment of Music Head University Live. Today, we're putting a bow on the Kendrick and Drake beef. What were the biggest takeaways from this beef, and where do we go next in terms of these two, what the summer may look like for them, and how are they viewed? Does this impact their legacy moving forward? So forth and so forth. We'll get into all of that, and then we'll turn the page, right? I think we kind of knew that the end was near when we heard the Heart Part 6, and we talked about the damage that was done with Not Like Us. So we kind of already knew. And I think we've gotten confirmation now that nothing's happened. This beef was like a shooting star. It burned hot and bright for a very, very concentrated amount of time, and now it's over. So let's talk about it and put a bow on it. Let's do that now here on Music Head University. Music Heads, classes in session. Turn me up. So I wanted to put this video out last week. I ran out of time. I was going to put this video out last Friday and kind of talk about this because we knew it was over already. And a lot of us, and we had talked about this on some of the live streams a couple of weeks ago when everything was fresh and new, that when Not Like Us came out, it was over, right? We had already said that. And then I think the confirmation came when Drake released the Heart Part 6. That was pretty much his way of bowing out of the battle, right? So from what we've seen, no more activity on either side. And Kendrick doesn't need to do another thing. And we said that after Not Like Us. He didn't need to do anything else. It was done. The damage was done. And Drake bowing out and not having any other responses kind of shows that this thing is done, right? It's met its conclusion. So we know who won, and we had already talked about that. So we don't need to belabor that point. But what I do want to talk about is the fallout, the aftermath of this. Are there any consequences for either of the combatants? Is there a hit to a legacy? What happens moving forward? That type of thing. I want to just put a nice, pretty bow on this battle and move on. So we'll start with Kendrick because to the victors go the spoils. When you do what he did to Drake here, I think the biggest takeaway for him is he solidified himself atop the rap food chain, right? We've had this conversation about the big three, right? The big three, and where he sat in that group of three and in the pantheon of rappers today. And, the accolades, the Grammys, the awards that he's won have put him in a category that few find themselves in. But with that said, there was still a question of, how versatile is Kendrick Lamar? No party tracks for Kendrick. Can he get people to get out of their seat at the club? Can he get a house party jumping? Can he get people to move their feet? We know he can put together an anthem, right? We know he can be the soundtrack for the NBA playoffs. But can he get people to have a good time to his music? Well, not only did he destroy Drake, but in the process of doing so, he put together an anthem that may end up being the soundtrack of the summer, right? When it's all said and done, we'll see if Drake can do something about that down the road. But right now, Not Like Us is the anthem for the summer, right? Until somebody knocks that off of its perch, that's the summer soundtrack. So I think he answered a number of questions, including the biggest one, which was who's the best in the game right now? And that answer definitively was, I think, Kendrick Lamar. And he spoke loudly and boldly and directly at Drake. And I think throughout this whole thing, even going all the way back to the beginning when J. Cole fired a shot and then kind of tried to recoil the shot, and he was like, yo, I don't want any smoke. Please don't aim at me, right? Don't put the dot on my head. I think we all kind of appreciated. There was a greater appreciation for what Kendrick or what J. Cole ultimately did there. But I'll say this. The order right now is probably 1, 2, 3. I think some, purists would still put J. Cole ahead of Drake. From a lyricism standpoint, I think it's not even close. J. Cole is way ahead of Drake, but because he bowed out and he did what he did, you can't put him ahead of Drake. At least Drake got in the ring. Okay, he was willing to do battle. So the order has been established, and Kendrick has showed that he is superior to that of his contemporaries. Right, he is superior. I think something else that he showed, and I talked about that briefly just a second ago, was that he could make a dance track, that he could make something that you could bang in the club, right? That he made something that people could dance to. And that was one of the knocks on Kendrick, is that, you know, Drake tried to use the you still rapping like you're trying to free the slaves, and I think that backfired on Drake. I don't know if we talked about that or not. I think we did talk about that in the moment. Like, bro, you can't do that, right? And people took offense to that. I'm going to talk about that a little bit more when we get to Drake, but that was one of the knocks on Kendrick is, do you have another sound? Do you have another lane that you can tap into? He proved that he could if he wanted to, and he can't. I also think that moving forward, we're about to get a project from Kendrick Lamar. I think this was the beginning of a rollout, so to speak, for him. You know, he's been dormant for quite a while now. And I think, when was the last time we got an album from him? 2019, I think, is the last time. When did he release Mr. Moral and the Steppers? When did that one come out? Mr. Morale and the Steppers. When did that one come out? Let's see. Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers came out in I mean, that wasn't that long ago. 2022 felt like a lot longer than that. So that wasn't that long ago. But I mean, we're still talking about, for most artists that want to remain relevant, and Kendrick doesn't succumb to that way of thinking. Now he's established himself enough to where he doesn't have to drop every year. Some like to remain active, stay in the consciousness of fans, and sometimes you need to do that because the musical landscape is ever changing. Sonically, it's changing, and you can get left behind real quick. And as we've seen over the years, there's no loyalty in this shit. People will bail on you in a heartbeat. You know, Big once famously said, "Hey, ain't no guarantee they're gonna love you tomorrow, man. You know, get that paper, right? Ain't no guarantee they're gonna love you tomorrow." So, guys, a lot of guys like Drake likes to drop he tries to drop every year, once a year at least. Jay-Z's famous thing was he was going to drop every summer, right? He was going to give you another album, you know, right before the start of the summer or in the summer, and he was going to try to be the summer, you know, soundtrack and anthem, right? Some people feel like that's what they need to do to remain relevant. Kendrick has already, you know, kind of made his name in the game, so when he drops, people listen, right? But I think an album is coming here shortly. I do think that is in the works, and we'll see. You know, there's been rumblings and grumblings that an album was coming, and that, you know, all of this was done in an effort to try to promote said album, as if Kendrick needs to promote an album. He could do what a lot of some of the bigger artists have done. I think Taylor Swift just did this a few days ago. Just dropped the album randomly. You know, no rollout, no nothing. Beyonce's been known to do this. You know, no fanfare. Bow. You just wake up and a whole album is been dropped. Kendrick could do that and people would flock to it, right? But not like us, shot to the top of the charts. First time he's had a single debut at the top of the charts. So this has done a lot for his brand, but more importantly for his legacy. I think it has established and stamped him as probably the best rapper of his generation, right? You know, this little period of time that he's been in, I think this establishes him at the top of that discussion. Okay. As for Drake, And I think there are more consequences for Drake here. First of all, let me say this. Drake is not going to have his legacy affected by this at all. It's a slight chink in the armor, but if you've rapped long enough and you get into enough beefs, you're going to take some L's. It's just how it goes. You're not going to win every one of these battles. So you're going to walk away with some battle scars. This is another battle scar for Drake. I think it just goes to show, and it reiterates and reinforces what we already knew about Drake. And I've said this already. I think Drake's a tremendous artist. It's a difference between being an artist and a rapper, and Kendrick's a rapper. J. Cole's a rapper. Drake's an artist. He's not a rapper. He can rap, but he's not a rapper. And because of that, when he meets real rappers, i.e. Pusha T, i.e. Kendrick Lamar, he meets his demise, right? He is defeated because real recognize real, and to them, he doesn't look all that familiar, right? Now, in saying that, he is a worthy opponent, but he's not on their level. And so when he goes up against a Meek Mill or Kanye West, he's going to destroy them because he can, right? So I think that's established again. That was reinforced. Like, you're not on that level. Hey, you nice, you not that nice. So that's the first thing. But this is not going to affect his legacy at all. The next time he drops, if it's a banger, everybody's right back on the Drake bandwagon. Now, what I will say, and I think this is going to be one of the biggest takeaways from this battle for me with Drake in particular, and one of the biggest consequences I see of this is his racial appropriation. I think people are going to be hypersensitive to Drake moving forward in terms of any racial appropriation that they deem to be inappropriate, unnecessary. Like, people will be clocking him a lot closer. Drake used to get away with a lot of shit, and people would either turn a blind eye to it, or, oh, he black, so we're not going to worry about it, right? But I think this has brought a lot, even Rick Ross doing his little side damage, right? While Kendrick was doing the main, Rick Ross was doing side damage over there, right? He was getting a few licks in, and I think that there's a lot that people are going to start to pay attention to when it comes to Drake, and they might not be as tolerant of it. And so I think there will need to be, I think, a bit of carefulness by Drake moving forward as to how he moves, the things that he says, the things that he does. I don't know if he'll take heed to that or not, but you kind of walk a fine line when you say some of the things and you do some of the things that he's done. And, some of the crowds that he keeps, I think there is a bit of carefulness now that needs to be taken. He has to be measured in his steps. Like, he's got to be careful about who he's around, who he posts with, what he says, what he does. He can't be super cryptic when he says things that could be perceived in the wrong manner. Like, there are certain things that nobody even used to blink when he would say, do, post, or anything like that. Now I think he's got to be very careful, because the stigma of being a pedophile, whether true or not, and I don't know if there's any validity to it or not, but I think there are people that truly believe that there may be some pedophile tendencies there, if there's a such thing, right? And his rationale for not being a pedophile was some of the worst rationale we've ever heard. We talked about that when we were breaking down some of the the bars throughout the course of the beef. But I would have been arrested already if I was a pedophile, if I had done something with an underage girl. Like, nah, that's not how that works, buddy. That's no, that's not how that works at all. So he's got to be careful, I think. I do think that there are some things that he used to get away with freely, with no consequence, where people will be clocking him now. People will be hypercritical of him. So I do think that is something that did stem from this. I think that overall, Drake is still Drake. Now, the BBL thing is going to stick depending on how he moves and how he counteracts this. The pedophile thing will do a bit of damage, but it's not going to crush his brand, right? And which is why he stopped the beef, which is why he stopped the battle. Because I said this a couple of weeks ago, you can't continue in this battle when the opposition is calling you a pedophile. Because again, we live in a society where you're guilty until proven innocent. If this man is chanting that you're a pedophile and the song that is shot to the number one on the charts is playing and it's calling you a pedophile throughout the entire song, you have to stop. Okay? You cannot win. So at this point, that is something that he has to address, whether it's just randomly in a song or he has to make sure that people know, like, bro. And, there's this adage that, it's funny because Drake even said this himself, essentially, I remember there was a song, I can't remember, where he said, what the man said that something, and he said nothing at all, right? I forgot the exact bar, right? I think it was from Scorpion, if I'm not mistaken. One of the tracks on Scorpion. But sometimes people say if you're innocent, you don't have to defend yourself. Bullshit. I think there's a way to go about it. You can't go over the top. It almost feels like you're guilty at that point. But a couple bars will do, right? A couple bars will do to kind of dismiss that, just to let everybody know. Like, you don't have to come out and go over the top in your denial. Like, don't go R. Kelly, right? Where you start crying and throwing shit and making it obvious that you're guilty. Like, don't do that, right? But a bar or two will do, right? Just to let everybody know, man, that shit was bullshit. So there are certain things that he's gonna have to wear moving forward. Moving forward, though, we see with some of his activity on social media, he's gonna continue this 20v1, tirade that he's on. And when he first was doing this, I didn't get it. I was like, bro, focus your energy, focus your time on the main target. Keep the main thing the main thing. Kendrick is the main target. He's the guy doing the most damage. All right? Like, you want to do this 20v1 thing, it's like fighting all of these little minions, but you got to get to the boss, right? You're beating up all of these little minions, and that's cool, but we expect you to destroy the little minions, right? But ultimately, it's to get to the big boss. Can you beat the big boss? And the answer is no. But I understand why he's so into the 20v1 thing, because if I can't get Kendrick, I can beat these other chumps up. So I can still save face. Look, I'm not better than him, and he got me, but I can still beat up on the rest of these clowns, right? And I think he's going to continue to do that. And his post suggests that that may be in the works, right? He'll continue to aim shots at, the other 19 in this 20v1 battle that he's created for himself. So anyway, I wanted to ask this question of you guys. We got a lot of good content, a lot of good material out of this beef. Even though it was somewhat short-lived, I like it like that. I like it like that. I like it like that. I like that it was like here today, gone tomorrow. I like that it was in rapid fire fashion. Like, don't string this bitch out over 4 years. It had been bubbling under the surface for a while, but when it actually came to wax, when we actually got to the shits and they were putting it on wax, it happened rapidly in rapid fire fashion. And I love that. I don't need this to be played out over a series of 5 years on 6 different albums. Nah, I'm good. Let's get to the shits right now. And that's what they did. And I appreciate that. We've never had it like this before. And I think there's a greater appreciation for, just how efficient this beef was. That said, what was the hardest bar from both sides in this beef? You may not have one for one or the other. If you want to just give me the hardest bar, the hardest line in the entire thing, I'd love to hear from you guys. Leave it in the comment section. For me, it was the A minor bar from Kendrick. I mean, he had a lot of stinging bars, like the joints that just they were zingers, right? They was like, oh, there were a lot of those moments throughout a number of songs in these diss tracks, but the A minor one was the one where I lost it. Like, yo, that's crazy, right? Again, that was with the theme of the pedophile thing. It just, damn, yikes. I felt like that was the knockout blow, right? That and Not Like Us, where he talks about that racial appropriation that I talked about, and Kendrick gave you a quick little lesson on Atlanta and the slaves and what it all entailed, and then went through Drake kind of using all of the Atlanta rappers for various tools, right? For various reasons, when he needed something, what they could provide him with. That was pretty nasty too. That was nasty work on the part of Kendrick. I think that one, if the A minor bar put him down on the canvas, that series of lines where he went through all of the rappers and what they could provide, what they provided for Drake, what he used them essentially for, that one put him out for the down and out for the count. So Miss P says, when Kendrick called him a colonizer, that was the bar for her. And yeah, and again, I hope Drake learned from some of his missteps, because he gave Kendrick that ammunition, right? Kendrick may have been thinking that, but when he brought up, you still rapping like you trying to free the slaves, he opened up that door and again made it easy on Kendrick to just slaughter him, right? With that kind of energy, because that's the kind of energy Kendrick comes with anyway. That's down his alley. That's right up his street. For Drake to do that, you really put yourself in a tough spot doing that. Really, really tough spot doing that. So, all in all, I think what we've seen from this battle is that you don't want it with K-Dot. And I think Jermaine knew that, which is why he was like, yo, I'm sorry. He apologized and was like, yo, let me take back 7-minute drill. I didn't mean that, right? I was tripping. I can't even sleep right now. Like, we really supposed to be boys, right? And I really do think there is a mutual respect between Jermaine and Kendrick, right? So I don't think there's a true beef there. There never really was. If you go back and look at what started their beef, it wasn't even the Control verse. It was people getting into, Jermaine's ear, if you want to be honest. So I'm glad he did what he did and bowed out of this thing. He didn't need to catch any of the shots that were being fired because he clearly didn't want to be in that arena, right? He didn't want to be in that arena. Swaggy P says, so many quotables from Not Like, there is so many quotables from Not Like, which is why it's #1 currently on the charts. It debuted at #1, the first time Kendrick Lamar has had a single debut at #1 on the charts. Well deserved, by the way, I may add. I told you that shit was everywhere when we were talking about it when it first released, and we went live and we were talking about Drake's rebuttal and response. And remember, I said that wasn't a diss track; it was a response. You know, the Heart Part 6 was a response because he was defending himself. He wasn't aiming at Kendrick. He was more so trying to deflect and protect himself. And that kind of felt like the beginning of the end for Drake in this battle. Not Like Us was so vicious on so many levels. It really truly was. I mean, yikes. It's not very often that a diss track can become a song that you can dance to. Like, diss tracks are supposed to be hard and graphic, and the beats are supposed to not where you bump your head, not move your feet, right? In nature, right? This shit did both. It's a rare feat that you get people to move their feet and bop to a diss track. The word bop and diss track usually aren't synonymous with one another, but Kendrick, he meshed the two together so beautifully in a way that we've never seen before. And the bars were just vicious with a lot of snap and bite and bark and bite to them, right? Yikes. Swaggy P says, I still want a Kendrick and Cole album. I wouldn't hold my breath on that. It could happen. I would never say never, but look, when they were really cool, it didn't happen. And we got teased about it happening for so long. Now, I think they're cool, but they're not like how they used to be. And I don't know if they'll ever be like they used to be. And I wouldn't look for it. I'll just tell you that. Miss P says, how smart was J. Cole in hindsight? A lot of people, including myself, and we talked about that, you know, a couple of weeks ago when this beef really started to heat up, right? When Kendrick put the beef in the microwave and he released like 3 diss tracks in the span of 2 days, when that beef started, when he really put that shit in the microwave and it heated up, we said, yeah, how smart is J. Cole, right? For not, you know, stepping in the arena and having to deal with this shit. J. Cole said, it's way too hot in this kitchen. Let me get out. Hove says that Kendrick Cole album was recorded in 2011. We were never getting that. K-Dot played it for me live at Absol Record Shop. I don't think we were ever going to get it either. If they really wanted to put it out, you don't got to talk about it. Just do it, right? Now, obviously, when we were first, you know, told about the album and it was being teased, that was a long time ago. Times have changed significantly, right? There were no streaming services back then, you know, when this was being talked about. You couldn't just release shit. You needed the radio stations. You needed to be pushed. You needed promotion. I mean, if you were, you know, an independent artist, you're going to have to put up a ton of money to do this. You don't have to do any of that stuff now. If they wanted to release a project together, they could literally just put it out on the streaming service, right? They could put it out on Tidal. They could put it out on Apple. They could put it out everywhere, Spotify, and boom, just like that. It could be the #1 album in the nation right now. It could top the Billboard charts right now if they wanted to. But clearly that's not what they want to do, right? Clearly that's not what they want to do. But, you know, we'll see what happens. At the end of the day, when we look back on this beef, and what ultimately came from it, I think we'll say that Kendrick Lamar established himself as this era's dominant rapper. And in doing so, he, I think, put Drake in his place. I think more people realize what Drake is. I've always felt like I've known what he was, and I was always okay with that. Some people have this fallacy in their mind that he's some kind of supremely gifted rapper. He's an artist that can rap. That's how he came into the game. That's how I've always viewed him. That's the prism that I will always look at Drake from. this continues to hammer home that point to me. Okay. At the end of the day, he's a tremendous and talented artist. He's got his ways about him. He's very quirky, super, super petty, and that will never change. I don't think his legacy has been affected by this, but I do think he has to move slightly different moving forward. I do think there has to be more intentionality on the part of Drake as to how he moves. Can't be racially or insensitive, if that makes sense. The racial appropriation, he has to be careful with that now. He has to be careful, right? Can't be just saying shit willy-nilly. The posts that he has, got to be careful with that. Like, don't let me catch a 16-year-old on one of your posts, right? Don't let me catch somebody that looks underage. Is it fair? No. But that's where we are now, right? Don't look one way and then show up looking a totally different way 2 months later, because everyone's going to suspect that you got some kind of surgery done, right? BBL Drake, BBL Drizzy, right? So I think he has to move slightly different in the aftermath of this. Hove writes, Euphoria, Not Like Us were jabs that he didn't get a chance to release the Knockout Punch tracks. I mean, if Not Like Us, like Euphoria, I thought was a great starter, right? We talked, I always use the boxing analogy, and you use the boxing analogy right there. So I'll stick with that theme. And I thought that he came out with Euphoria, and that was him kind of feeling Drake out, right? He came out with Euphoria, and I felt like Drake came out, won some of the early rounds just off of inactivity from Kendrick, right? And after that, he dropped Euphoria, and he started to mount a comeback, and he started to even the scorecards, right? He was the more active. He was the more aggressive. That was more of a warning sign of things to come. When he put out 616 in LA, that felt like, he's getting the upper hand, right? Now he's starting to get aggressive. Now he's looking to land power shots, right? And then meet the Grams was like, he knows he's hurt him, right? He's got Drake hurt. He's got Drake hurt. And Drake's wearing down, and these punches that he started with Euphoria, then went to 616 in LA, and now Meet the Gram, it's starting to do damage and take its toll. And Not Like Us felt like the knockout punch. That's what it felt like to me. If there's something else that he had in the chamber, that he had in the tuck that he didn't release, God forbid that would have ever had to come out. Good thing Drake, bowed out when he did, if there was more left. After Not Like Us, I can't imagine what could be more damaging than Not Like Us. I can't even fathom that. So anyway, I digress. I really appreciate the support. I think a lot of people saw spikes in their channels based off of this beef. I'm one of them, and I'm very appreciative of the content that they gave me. But we're gonna get back to going all over the musical landscape and map, because that's what I like to do. So I'll be all over the place, getting back to some R&B, doing some more rap. I just did the Nas 30-year anniversary tribute to Illmatic, which was long overdue. So I was glad to finally get that out. And we'll just continue to bounce all over different genres and talk about a lot of different things. But this was a great start to the summer, right? We haven't even hit summer technically yet, but this was a great start to the summer. We'll see what else is in store for us as we hit the summer. And can something upstage Not Like Us in terms of the summer track, right? The summer jam, if you will. Like, there's always a song that represents the summer, right? Right now, Not Like Us is in pole position. Can anybody knock him off? We'll see. Hove says Euphoria originally 13 minutes long. I'd have to see that to believe it. How much more could you have done in Euphoria? Like what he switched beats twice. It was 3 different, sounds there. There was a switch up twice in that song. How many more switch ups did he have? Like, could Euphoria really have been that long? I'd have to hear it to believe it. Because it was already 6 minutes long. It's already 6 minutes long. So I'd have to see it to believe it. But I wouldn't be shocked if Kendrick had more. I would not have been shocked. I think we all know now why it took him so long to respond, because he was cooking up crack in the lab. He was getting all of his weapons loaded up, getting all the ammunition, all that he needed to end this thing nice and early and efficiently. Hove writes, keep up the great work, Louie T. You live rent-free in my house. You're always on the TV. Hey, I appreciate that, man. Thank you so much for the support. And I look forward to chopping it up with you guys in the near future. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to MusicHead University if you haven't already done so. Share this content, continue to help this channel grow. There's so many more things that I want to do with this channel, and the growth that is taking place right now is going to help in making that happen. So with that said, I appreciate each and every single one of you. Look forward to chopping it up with you in the near future. And Music Heads, class is always in session. Until next time, y'all know what it is. Take care. Peace.